Hello, and welcome to today's episode. Thanks for tuning in, whether you're on site, in the office, or catching up between jobs. We appreciate you being with us. Before we dive in, I'm really pleased to be joined today by somebody who knows this industry inside out, Greg Hill. Greg is our Director of Product here at Joblogic, and between us, we've spent over 50 odd years working alongside plumbing and heating companies, helping them implement the right systems, streamline workflows, and scale their business with confidence. Greg's got an incredible ability to take real world challenges from engineers and business owners and shape them into smart, practical product decisions. He's been right there in the thick of it, whether it's working with small firms just getting off the ground or with larger businesses looking to tighten up their operations and grow sustainably. We've both spent years listening to what these industries really need and have helped shape Joblogic to support the way plumbing, heating, and drainage businesses run and actually work. Greg, let's get right into it then. So, from your experience, if we start off a 10, an easy one, from your experience, what tends to catch plumbing and heating companies and drainage companies off guard when they scale?
So these companies don't struggle because they are bad at their job. They know what they're doing, right? The,
Yeah,
the bit they struggle with is the scale. You know the story, you've seen it 100 times. We go from 10 engineers to 50 engineers.
yeah,
We go from one guy doing the scheduling, knowing who does what, knowing all the business, to a whole team of planners having
yeah.
to work together and coordinate. We've got our customers' expectations growing. We've got the demands for compliance magnifying. And all of a sudden, the tools that used to work just don't work anymore. If anything, they hold you back, right?
Absolutely.
So you've seen it, duplicating data, entering data into multiple systems that can't talk to each other. You go into firefighting mode, right? And we know what that leads to: delays, inefficiency, confusion,
Chaos.
chaos.
Yeah, exactly, Greg. Around about 3 or 4 years ago, you may remember I implemented a system to a company in Stoke-on-Trent. They went from 7 engineers literally overnight within a matter of a week or so to 35 or 40 because large contract win. And the gaffers, they obviously said, yeah, we can handle that when they tendered for it. And they were in the middle of scaling. They were in the middle of growing and they said yes to this additional responsibility, this additional what would be chaos. So you can probably guess when he said yes to the contract, it was a combination currently of WhatsApp, spreadsheets, maybe gone as far as OneDrive or shared drive on his system, and disjointed communication, disjointed systems, and he was stressed, really stressed.
Yeah, I mean, they're never going to say no to this work, are they?
No,
Right?
no,
But the
they
business
can't.
processes are quite often not in place to support it.
Exactly, exactly, and that's why this guy was getting sleepless nights. When we started the project, he was literally phoning us up, saying, "Is this going to work?" He wanted that reassurance. Me and you, we've done this hundreds, thousands of times. But for him, it was his second system, if you like, because obviously he just had that WhatsApp that he'd introduced and Word documents for quotes and so on. So yeah, there was a lot of running around trying to fix gaps. There was a lot of stress and pressure within the business.
Yeah, and of course the disconnect between the back office and the mobile staff that can bring.
Absolutely, Greg. And that leads me nicely into the next kind of section we're going to talk about. Um, why do you think real-time visibility between the back office and the engineers is so critical when companies scale? We know it's critical anyway in what we obviously do, but when they're scaling, why do you think this is so important?
I mean, connecting the back office to the mobile field staff in real time is important all of the time.
Yeah,
But as you scale and you're asking more of that mobile workforce, it becomes more paramount, I guess.
absolutely.
Getting the right information to the right people at the right time is what it's all about, right? So going and getting on site as an engineer and being able to look at that asset's history, look at what's been parts have been used before. That sort of information is going to enable a first time fix potentially. So we're getting to get more efficiency out of the mobile workforce, which is key in that scaling section.
Absolutely, and that will just to add on to your point, that'll stop the number of recalls.
Yeah.
You know, that's what we've both found, isn't it? As we've spoken to various customers, if you have that connectivity and that decisive information up front, especially I like the way you mentioned assets there, because they're really important to that part of that flow.
Yeah.
Um,
And of course, that first time fix doesn't just enhance your efficiency with your mobile workforce, it enhances your reputation with the client,
yeah.
which is also key when you're going to win these bigger contracts.
And of course, if you think of the customer in all this with the real-time communication, this new contract win that they got, they wanted real-time communication. They wanted a portal. They wanted to download their own invoices, their own job sheets, etc., etc. Of course, previous to um, us coming in, I guess we can talk like that. Us coming in, you, sorry, they would have had this WhatsApp, this spreadsheet that is never going to scale into a real-time update for the customer. Otherwise, we've seen it before. We've seen people manually updating portals and scary things like that. So yeah, it's a really good point. Really good point. So I hope you don't mind me saying this. I hope you don't. But you have a saying when we're discussing enterprise customers within the company, within meetings, and that is enterprise businesses are run on minutes, not just hours and days. Why is that?
What I mean by that is minutes add up, right?
Yeah,
So 5 minutes chasing, doing menial admin tasks, 10 minutes chasing paperwork, calling engineers, liaising with customers on reporting, all of those minutes, multiply that across 50 engineers doing many jobs per day, and all of a sudden we've got lost hours,
yeah,
lots and lots of lost hours. So the smarter businesses are trying to reclaim that lost time. So
yeah,
how do they do it, right? So if we think about process, quotes, invoices, paperwork, this connect the office to the mobile workforce really comes into play
yeah,
because that paperwork, the job costing, the ability to invoice efficiently is all put into play by getting that real time information back from the field. So we're reclaiming minutes, right?
yeah.
And this isn't about fancy. It's not about tech. It's about taking control of operations. And I think that's what I mean when I say if we look after the minutes,
Yeah, exactly.
and let's not forget the ability for our customers to self-serve. So effective customer portals give those customers the ability to interrogate what you're doing for them.
Yeah,
So we don't need to phone up,
no,
have this quote being sent. Am I gonna? Yeah, all that stuff is self-served,
yeah.
which again not only enhances efficiency but also enhances reputation.
Absolutely. If we go back to the guys in Stoke again, I think we've gone quite far with them now, so we might as well use them as our go-to story, I guess. Um, we did exactly that with them, right? So obviously, what my role would be inside helping that business to improve their processes or workflows and scale. So what we did, following on from your point, we looked from what we call internally this job life cycle, the life of a job, and we took it from the moment this quote comes in, fully through to the invoicing stage. And exactly what you said, we looked at the quoting stage first and said, right, what's your current process inside this workflow? Because people get mixed up between processes and workflow, and workflow for me contains many processes. So at that stage of the workflow with quoting, where does it start? How do you win the work? How does it come in? How do you begin to build your quotes? And how does it get to the customer? So let's deal with that stage right now. And like you said, we're not meaning to sound it's all about the tech. It isn't, because the people are important, but the tech helps you shave those minutes.
I think it does, but I think I would say this, I guess, but as Joblogic, I think when we go to a company like the guys in Stoke and we look at their workflows and processes, we can almost bring value without bringing any tech to the table at all.
Yeah.
Because we've done this so many times, we know what good looks like. So we can look at processes and we can sort of streamline process. And once you've got a streamlined process, then we can map that to tech.
Exactly, exactly. And that's what we've become very good at now as a business, and without championing our own cause, if you like. We're not here to do that, but I feel I got asked at a show last week for an opinion on SaaS, and we know we've spoken about this before, but my opinion now with SaaS, especially where we're concerned in our environment, is SaaS has flipped, and now it's no longer about, software as a service. It's the service as part of the software.
Hmm.
So this service of going into a business, looking at their processes, and we do this, this, we sit down as a consultant and say, right, tell me about your quote.
Hmm.
Well, what's Joblogic going to do here? Doesn't matter. I want to understand your process, and I want to help you streamline it. Why are you doing that? Why have you got 2 people chasing this? Why are you sending 3 emails to inquire about this? Let's trim all that down, and then, as you said quite beautifully, bring in the tech.
Yeah, and I think it's an important point. The best software works the way you want it to work.
Yeah.
And I think, yes, we give steers. Yes, we know what good looks like. Yes, we know what's the most efficient processes, but it's got to be usable by the individual.
Absolutely. And we always talk about the best software. You shouldn't have to work around it.
Hmm.
It should work for
Work for
you.
you. Yeah, absolutely.
But we always do temper it a little bit. It might ask you for a little bit in return. And what that means, and what we always say to our customers who are going through this growth and scale, because you're going through this painful growing, period of your business. Yes, your workflow that we've trimmed here, it's perfect. It's streamlined. It's working really, really well. But we need to introduce this new little step that you've never done before, and what that's going to give you over here is something,
Building the foundations for the next level.
exactly,
Yeah,
exactly that. Yeah. Can I just take you back to what we were just talking about? Workflows, massively important, as we know. When businesses are younger, they don't give them enough importance, which is where we come in. Part of that workflow and part of that whole journey of any kind of job or any business growth is, or sorry, rather has to have compliance, a compliance element. So why, I guess, is the visibility of compliance so important as you're scaling, and thinking back to what we're saying about this real-time data and so on?
Yeah, it's a definite risk. And if we go back to what we talked about, um, as these companies scale, they tend to be chasing larger contracts.
Mm.
Win that larger contract, and that customer is going to have much higher expectations of you around lots of data, but in particular compliance, right? So compliance isn't a box ticking exercise. It's got to be embedded in the workflow.
Absolutely.
This comes back to, we've talked about it, I've mentioned it a number of times, the connection between the back office and the mobile engineer. The mobile engineer's at the coalface. He's filling in these compliance forms. He's performing these tests. We need that information to come back into the back office and be recorded in a way that can be evidenced and visualized. That's really difficult with paper-based systems. You're chasing the paperwork in the first place, then how do you retrieve it effectively? And if paperwork goes missing, if audits fail, yes, that could result in a fine in some cases, but more importantly, we're back to that reputation piece.
Yeah.
It's going to be massively damaging to your reputation with your customers, which will impact your ability to win the next contract.
Again, going back to the bottom line, isn't it?
It
But
is. So
um,
I think we're talking about effective ways to automate
yeah,
that compliance piece, from the form being filled in by the engineer to it hitting the back office to be in a format that's even easily evidenced,
yeah,
not only to an auditor, but to your customer. Look, we're doing what we said we would do. You're compliant, you're safe, we're all good.
absolutely. Just take you back to the engineers. Any good software, as we know, it will take away the compliance. Can't just be a PDF version of a sheet that they zoom into, right? And they have to ticking box
Yeah.
exercise. But it kind of takes me back. Your point about lost paperwork. It kind of takes me back to an old customer of ours. Weirdly, not in Stoke-on-Trent.
Thank Lord.
So they were a customer responsible for some military bases. So you probably guess where I'm going with this.
Public sector, yeah.
Absolutely right. So this engineer, I remember the story. It wasn't actually me, but I remember being told this story. The engineer had filled out this compliance form on site, gone to his van, bit of lunch, as you do, left it on his seat on top of a bag or whatever it might be. Hot day, opened his windows, sat there, chewing away, wind gushing through, loving life. Goes back to work, finishes off his job, goes back into the van, drives to the office, off he goes, takes his paperwork in. Before he could even get to the office to hand the paperwork in, there was a phone call to his office from, I don't know, squad commander, whatever it is, captain, whatever it might be, raging on the phone because sorry, I should have added, this was security company. The compliance sheet he had filled in had blown out of his van window and was on the floor, open view, with all this information, serial numbers, and as you can probably imagine, some quite important information, secure information, was just left for all to see on the ground. And that company lost that contract off the back of that one incident.
Yeah.
One incident.
Reputation.
So it's going to sound obvious now, right? Going back again to the workflow, what I find, and you may agree with this or may not, what I tend to find is people put compliance as a kind of last point, a tick, tick in the box exercise. An afterthought, exactly that. Just get it done, tick it, do it quickly. Yes, yes, yes. Write the readings down, whatever it might be. But what I do when I'm talking to them about their workflows now is we make sure we insert the compliance part as a part of the workflow, so it becomes this natural step, right? This quality check, this important compliance piece that is part of this workflow and feels natural.
Yeah, and I think we talk about it being an afterthought, and I think that's really driven by this pain of scale as well, or can be, magnified by this pain of scale, because we're asking more of our engineers. So, they need to do the job. They need to get the maintenance done, or the call out resolved, or whatever that looks like. And filling compliance forms in is the last thing on that on their mind.
Absolutely.
And this is where it becomes a box ticking exercise, because it's done that, great.
Yeah.
Whereas if it's part of the workflow, then obviously we're going to get more effective at doing that.
Okay, mate. Well, look, we've spoken about a number of things with workflows and growth and scaling and engineers and how important obviously they are, real time, lots and lots of different subjects. But it would be remiss of us not to speak about the future. And of course, that one conversation that is in, never mind every business, it's in every household now, where we're talking about AI. What would you say to business owners now, from your perspective as director of product? What would you say to business owners who are, let's just say, skeptical about AI?
It's a good question. I think primarily it's about understanding where AI sits. Yeah, we don't. It's not science fiction, right? It's not looking to replace human beings, not yet anyway. But it's a tool, just like IoT sensors, integration into building management systems. These are tools that can help and support those workflows that we've talked about. From an AI perspective, it's understanding where it sits in the business, where it can bring value. As I say, we're not looking to replace human beings. We're looking to make them more efficient with AI, right? So it's a toolbox that can sit alongside that human workforce, if you like, and harness the power of summarization of data, collating data from multiple places into one place. AI can do it in microseconds. It takes people ages.
And why would you want to do that, right? By hand.
Exactly.
By
exactly.
hand.
So, we're looking at summarization of data. We're looking at pattern recognition. This fault has occurred 5 times before. This is what you did to fix it. You'll need these parts. We're enabling the first time fix again. We're giving the right information to the right people at the right time. And that can be made easier with the power of AI. Also, we're looking at these pattern recognitions, this summarization piece can support and suggest, not take over, but suggest what's next. What's the best action? Have we got quotes, that need to be chased up? Have we got jobs in jeopardy that are going to breach SLA? Have we forgotten that we've ordered some parts and they've been delivered and sat there for 2 weeks? Right? These things happen. They do in the real world. These tools, these AI tools, can support the business in not missing these things.
So we're already or like currently as we stand today, we're already in a situation where good software systems are suggesting which engineer to send to a piece of work, to a job, based on geographical locations, qualifications, and even seniority. So we've already got that. But what I'd like is your opinion on something, just to take you back a little bit. Sorry, mate, just to take you back to something you said. Um, I was at the installer show last week, and there was a lot of conversation, a lot of debate panels over various things, and AI being one of them, and how interestingly it's coming into all the various industries, including plumbing, heating, and drainage. What I'd like your take on is the impact to engineers. Now, what they were talking about was, if you imagine this imaginary line of jobs with AI here, and these jobs kind of approaching it, and people saying, oh, we're going to lose our jobs, we're going to lose our jobs. They're putting engineers right at the back because they're hands-on, right? They've got a
Yeah,
trade. They fix, they install, they lift, and so on. So it's going to have to be some serious tech to
yeah,
take that off them. What would your thoughts be around that? What would you
yeah.
say about
I
that?
think I think you're right from an engineer's perspective, but I think what we're looking at is we know we've got a labour shortage, right?
Yeah.
We're talking about scale, we're talking about growth, we're talking about getting more out of the engineering pool that we've got. And if we're going to do that, we're going to have to enable the first time fix. We're going to have to deliver the right information to the engineer at the right time, give him the visibility of what's happened in the past, all that good stuff. And that's actually taking pressure off the engineer rather than piling it on. If we compare that, with these AI tools, um, I mentioned IoT and BMS. Sensor information, business management systems information is starting to be at a point now where we can suppress maintenance. So instead of going every month, whether it needs it or not, we'll go when it needs to be maintained. Again, reducing the workload for the engineers, so we can start to be more efficient with our resource by enhancing the power of AI and these tools that we can and the sensors and all the rest of it.
Yeah. So you do you see them? I don't know how to really word this, but do you see it not taking the mundane away from them, but do you see engineers being used for more, not even critical work, but
I think it just levels the playing field, Paul,
yeah,
because you've got very experienced engineers and you've got brand new guys, but
yeah,
now they can have shared information.
yeah,
It almost brings people to the same level.
yeah,
So it's getting the most out of that workforce again from the company's perspective.
yeah. A lot of people, they imagine this T1000 sort of robot style AI are going to come over and they're going to start lifting boilers into lofts and all this sort of stuff. That's without going into heat pump conversations and so on. But yeah, they're a skill. They're a hands-on. They're great to watch. You and I have the same, what's the word I'm looking for? The same respect for engineers.
Yeah,
What they do is just, it's mind blowing at times what they can actually put their hand to. And like you said, the skills shortage, there is actually figures on this. We're losing 200,000 engineers a year based on retirement, people leaving the trade, etc., etc., and we're only gaining
hmm
180,000. So we've got a 20 grand.
it's only going to get worse.
Definitely, exactly. But I guess what we could say is that could be the positivity of AI. If that does it plug that shortage by bringing in these front end things that help industries to be more proactive,
Yeah,
help.
absolutely. I think it does. Yeah, like I said, it's a toolbox to support the business,
Mm,
and from the engineer's perspective, that's the right information at the right time. Maintenance suppression. Don't do the visits you don't need to go to. You know, pattern recognition across assets can predict failures. Again, enhancing the
yeah,
company's reputation. It all comes back to the
yeah.
same place.
And if you look just where we've come as a business, and I don't know if you think the same, but I do now. It's almost a hassle to click into the job desk and go and investigate something. Whereas years ago, it was this mind blowing thing. We've got
Yeah,
this job desk and we can filter by this job desk and I can find the right jobs and I can go into them. Now,
you have the question.
I ask the question.
Hmm.
I want an AI dashboard. I want it suggesting things to me. I want it knowing patterns and saying, hey, Paul, you need to look at this because this isn't right based on all this data.
Yeah,
But not even that, just a dashboard that I look at in the morning as a business owner. I can look at it and just say, right, there's everything I need. What's going on there? no filtering, no searching, no typing, just ask it what's happening with that job there.
Yeah, and that's where AI is bringing value.
Greg, been great chatting to you, mate. Really appreciate your time. Just some core takeaways from this. You can't scale chaos. What worked for 10 engineers won't work for 50, as we discussed. We've got obviously visibility is driving the results. We spoke about compliance, not being a tick box exercise or a folder. And of course, AI, which isn't the future, it's right now.
Absolutely, it's been a pleasure being here. I think we raised some valid points.
Yeah.
Hopefully, people will find that interesting.
Thanks for joining us in today's session, and hopefully you've got some things to take away and think about. If your systems aren't supporting your business as they scale, then it's probably time to start having a bit of a rethink. Thanks again, and we enjoyed having you. See you on the next one.